The Roman emperor who disappeared without a trace history remembers kings who conquered the world.
Yes.
But sometimes, it forgets the ones who simply vanished. It was a warm summer morning in the year 282 AD. The sun rose over the dusty roads of the Roman Empire. And somewhere near the eastern frontier, a man named Emperor Aurelian mounted his horse for the last time. He was no ordinary ruler. He was the man who had saved Rome, a soldier who rose from nothing, who rebuilt an empire when everyone thought it was lost. They called him the restorer of the world, but even the strongest men carry shadows. Aurelian had spent his life fighting Persians, rebels, and betrayal. His armor had become a second skin. His sword had seen more dawns than peace. And now, he was marching east, planning one final campaign, one last war. But war wasn't the only thing waiting for him. His army camped near Byzantium, a quiet place where soldiers laughed, sharpened swords, and sang old Roman songs. The night before the march, Aurelian walked among them in silence. He wasn't wearing his crown, just a simple cloak, his face half hidden in the torchlight. To most, he looked like any other soldier, tired, scarred, and lost in thought. Inside his tent, his scribe, a man named Eros, sat nervously with a parchment in his hands. Rumors had begun to spread through the camp, rumors of a secret list. They said Aurelian had written the names of men marked for death, traitors, liars, and spies. And one of those names, they whispered, was Eros. The scribe's heart pounded as the emperor entered. Aurelian smiled faintly, took off his gloves, and said softly, "Tomorrow, we ride for Persia." Eros nodded, but he wasn't listening. Fear was louder than any word. That night, while the camp slept under a moonless sky, Eros crept into Aurelian's tent. His hands were shaking. His breath was shallow. He stood over the man who had built an empire from ashes. "The man the world called unbreakable," Eros whispered. "I'm sorry." And with one stab of his knife, Rome lost its savior. By morning, the emperor was gone. The soldiers awoke to chaos, a commander without orders, a leader without a body. They found only blood, a torn cloak, and an empty tent. Eros ran before dawn, but when he was caught days later, his face was pale, his hands trembling. He said he killed Aurelian because of the list of men marked for death. But when they searched his tent, the truth cut deeper than any blade. There was no list. The papers he found were battle plans, nothing more. The great Emperor Aurelian, the man who saved Rome from ruin, had died because of a lie. And worse, no one ever found his body. No grave, no tomb, no proof that he ever truly died. Some say his soldiers buried him in secret, afraid of what Rome might do if it knew the truth. Others say his body was lost to the forest, taken by wolves or the gods themselves. The people whispered another story, that Aurelian didn't die, that he simply walked away. They said a farmer once saw him, years later, living quietly in a small village near the sea. He wore no crown, no armor, only peace. Maybe it was a ghost, maybe it was a dream, or maybe even emperors get tired of being gods. After Aurelian's death, the empire fell silent. No messenger rode to Rome, no trumpet announced the end of its savior. The soldiers buried what they knew beneath fear and loyalty. They told no one where it happened, no one where he was laid. All they said was that the emperor had gone east and would return when Rome needed him again. For weeks the empire waited. The Senate sent letters. Governors sent prayers, and people whispered that maybe their emperor wasn't dead at all. 'Cause how could a man who rebuilt the world just vanish? How could the strongest emperor Rome had known disappear without leaving a trace? Rumors began to spread. Some said the gods had taken him, that Jupiter himself had claimed Aurelian as a reward for saving Rome. Others said he had grown tired of blood and power and had chosen to live among ordinary people, walking nameless through the land he once ruled. And then there were those who swore they had seen him, an old man with familiar eyes, working in the fields near the coast, quietly smiling when people spoke of Rome. Maybe it was a ghost. Maybe it was guilt. But the story refused to die. In Rome, statues were raised in his honor, but no tomb was ever built. Even in marble, his eyes seemed to look beyond the empire, as if he knew something everyone else had forgotten. The senators called him a god. The soldiers called him a legend. But the people, they called him the emperor who never died. Years passed. New rulers came and went. Some cruel, some weak. None as strong as Aurelian. Every time the empire began to crumble again, people would whisper his name. They said he was still out there, watching, waiting, ready to return when Rome's heart stopped beating. And in a way, he did return. Not as a man of flesh, but as an idea. A reminder that even kings can disappear, but courage never does. In the centuries that followed, his name faded from books, but not from the wind. The Roman soldiers who still guarded the frontiers would tell stories by the fire. It's about the emperor who vanished into the mist and promised to come back when Rome needed him most. Maybe it was just a tale told to keep hope alive. Or maybe hope itself was Aurelian's final gift. Because some say that night he died, he didn't cry out. He didn't fight back. He simply looked up toward the dark sky and smiled. Maybe he knew something no one else did. That peace isn't found in power, but in letting go. No tomb, no body, no end, only a legend. And even now, when the ruins of Rome echo with the footsteps of time, the wind still carries his name, Aurelian, the emperor who disappeared without a trace, but was never truly gone.